Right, come on now. We've got an awful lot to get through. Pin back your ears. We're off. United States of America. Change in US debt outstanding by sector for Q3 of this year. Change in US debt outstanding by sector. We'll just go to the big sectors. Deleveraging in yellow underneath is the financial sector. Compensating for that by leveraging up is the federal government, and all the others don't really count. Another big section down below on deleveraging is the home mortgage sector, but you can see the main participants in this: financial, deleveraging, government leveraging up. Net result, the economy is just about on an even keel. I wouldn't like the look of it if the government wasn't leveraging up. Newt Gingrich. The world's largest ethanol producer is one of Newt Gingrich's biggest donors. A long-time supporter of the controversial subsidy, Newt is also the only GOP candidate to unequivocally support ethanol subsidies. This link is from the History Department of George Mason University, and although the bit that I've pulled out sounds wacky, the read is extremely good and very interesting. But the highlight I've got here: if men are from Mars and women are from Venus, Newt Gingrich is from the planet Trantor. Now that might sound as though the whole thing is going to be very silly, but it isn't. It's all about literature, and it's a good read. George Mason University, that would be libertarian type stuff, wouldn't it? United States of America, calculated risk chart. Where are all the young people at? The red strong line is the participation rate in work. The blue spotty and pink spotty are for the girls and the boys participating in work, but they basically follow the red line. The purple line shows that the 18 to 19-year-olds are enrolled at school. It used to be 50% in 1970, but now it's 70% of the 18 to 19-year-olds are enrolled in school. 18 to 19-year-olds up to 70% enrolled. Same participation rate for the older ones, the 20 to 24. The rate of working ones not coming down as much, but the enrollment rate is rising from 20% in 1970 up to 40% now, and I hope they are learning something very useful. Mom shoots children and kills herself after being denied food stamps. In a final and violent act of desperation, a 38-year-old mother in Texas bombarded herself in a welfare office on Tuesday after being denied food stamps. She took her own life and shot her 2 children before the standoff ceased. Now that's RT article. That's probably why the words don't completely make sense, but we can get the idea, if that's a true story, how sad things can be. Nelson Rockefeller Institute, who's excellent, absolutely excellent at following income for the states, and preliminary tax collection data for July-September quarter of 2011 shows growth in overall state tax collections, as well as for personal income tax and sales tax revenue, and that's for the 7th consecutive quarter. The states are being brilliant at getting money in. Now I've put this Carl Denninger, his Twitter account main page thing up for a couple of reasons. I think I probably read 5 articles from Carl yesterday, and all were on my tabs open to see if they got into this morning's presentation, but none of them have. They've all been kicked out, so I thought Carl should have a mention. And the bottom ticker that he's got there is "they really are dumb," and that's about Europe and the Euro people. And Carl's quite a smart boy, to say the least, and he has spotted that the Euro people are quite dumb. But Carl is not infallible. Over the last, I think it was yesterday or the day before, he has changed his Twitter picture to this new one, which shows he is fallible when it comes to making judgments. But let's get on with these European people. Wilhelm Buiter, who used to be something important in Europe, has gone over to Citigroup in New York to be their analyst, their chief analyst. The terrible consequences of a Eurozone collapse. Now, it's a frightening article, but he now works for a bank, so they want to make it as frightening as possible so the politicians damn well do something about it, and that the banks don't have to come under pressure where they might lose money. Columnist in the Financial Times, and it's Larry Summers again writing for the FT. IMF must play its part in any Euro solution. The IMF must play its part in a Euro solution. Strange. I've got to push on, there's so much to do. Financial Times as well, Eurozone officials push 150 billion euro IMF loan deal. So Larry Summers is onto something here. The Eurozone authorities are pushing for a deal to lend about 150 billion euro to the IMF. A boost which would give it, the IMF, more firepower to help with the Eurozone debt crisis. Yes, you heard that right. Getting into who's going to supply this money to go to the IMF that's going to then bail out the Eurozone. Is Denmark on the verge of Icelandic-style crash? Well, it can't be Denmark if they're on the verge of an Icelandic-style crash. This was Edward Harrison credit write-downs yesterday, or on the 8th of December. And it's about the hidden contingent sovereign liabilities of Danish mortgage bonds, and it's really quite complicated, so we won't go into it. But we come to Reuters yesterday, and Denmark is ready to provide 5.4 billion euros to the IMF. So Denmark are going to play their part. Denmark is prepared to contribute funds to the IMF to bolster its resources and help tackle the Eurozone debt crisis. Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt said on Thursday. Now Denmark's one of these, they've got their own currency. They're part of the EU, but not part of the EZ. But they're going to contribute to the IMF, so the IMF can bail out the EZ. But credit write-downs say they've got enough of their own problems. But this gives me an excuse to put up a photo of Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt. Top totty. Banks, Europe. Germany. German banks struggle in stress tests. Germany's banking system was shown to be far weaker than previously thought in a new round of European stress tests, raising the prospect of further taxpayer bailouts. The European Banking Authority said late on Thursday that German banks had a capital shortfall which must be made up by next June of 13.1 billion euro, nearly triple the result of a previous test in October, which is pushing up the euro-wide deficit from 106 to 115 billion euro. And I thought it was quite funny. Who was it? The German, it wasn't Schäuble, one of the top German ministers said that the EBA, which is the European Banking Authority, has lost all credibility because it said that the German banks were in such a desperate need of new capital. I think it was the exact same thing that Sarkozy said about the credit rating agencies when they said that they were going to put all the European countries on downgrade watch. They've lost all respectability and credibility. Right. This was from a comment which was actually on the Wilhelm Buiter post, but it sums up in the strongest way some of the comments that are coming through to the Financial Times on this whole Eurozone crisis. It's more than just the Eurosceptics coming out of the woodwork and saying, "I told you so." It's much, much more than that. So this is just part of the comment. The comment went on a bit. France and Germany, by the sly and knowing incompetence of their oversight, by the lack of any serious economic or financial review, when it was most needed, thus by default, lied their way through the formation of the euro. It is widely recorded that they themselves broke the terms and conditions and rules and regulations and directives laughably labelled the Stability Pact. For 14 years the EU was criminally incapable of getting its books audited to any degree of honesty that was acceptable to open international standards. I still don't think they have been signed off, have they? The EU books. No auditor will sign them off, and haven't. He says 14. I think it's about 8 or 9 years they haven't signed them off. It sacked, intimidated, and one whistleblower and naysayer after another. Bernard Connolly, Paul van Buitenen, Marta Anderson, Andreasen, and how many more that we've never heard of. It robbed one nation after another of its democratic mandate, reimposing referenda whenever it didn't get the answer it wanted, and ramped up the collective debt to levels that are too big to fail, and then it cynically and ruthlessly and systematically blackmailed its way to where we are now. And that sounds all roughly about right. I'll leave you with Merkel, the superglue years, and wish everyone well. Bye.